All right, so today we are diving into something that has me really, really hyped up, actually. Um, and that is D&D character backstories.
Ooh, okay.
But not just any backstories. We're talking AI-generated backstories.
Okay.
Because I know you're all about taking your D&D game to the next level, right?
Absolutely.
And a killer backstory is like the secret sauce, right?
It really is. It's kind of what brings the character to life.
Exactly. And who wouldn't want a little AI magic to help them cook up something truly epic?
Oh, for sure. Especially if you're feeling a little stuck.
Oh, totally. Because
Yeah.
we've all been there, right?
It happens to the best of us.
Staring at that blank page like, oh, I don't, where do I even begin?
Yeah, you're like, I rolled a level 3 rogue. What's their deal?
Exactly. Or you fall back on those same old tropes, you know,
Oh.
like, oh, you were raised by wolves. How original. Like, come on.
Right, it's like you open the random backstory generator in your brain and it's just spitting out the same 5 things.
Exactly. And that's what's so exciting about AI and what we're going to be looking at today is that potential to break free from those cliches and get something that's both unique and compelling.
Yeah, that's the dream, right?
Yeah.
Like a little digital muse to kind of help you get those creative juices flowing.
Exactly. So we're diving into this website I found called Lit RPG Adventures.
Okay.
And it's run by this guy, Paul Bello, who, from what I can tell,
Okay.
is like the perfect person to be doing this because he's like a veteran dungeon master,
Oh, wow.
but also a tech whiz. So he knows what makes a good backstory tick and how to harness the power of AI.
Right. So we've got the best of both worlds here.
Oh, exactly. And in this case, the AI we're talking about is GPT technology,
Yeah.
which everyone's probably heard of by now.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
So, yeah, no pressure, Paul, but like
Big shoes to fill.
big shoes to fill, right?
Right.
But the good news is that he's put his money where his mouth is, so to speak,
Okay, good.
and provided some actual examples of D&D backstories
Yeah.
generated by Lit RPG Adventures.
I like it. I like it a lot.
So we're going to sink our teeth into these.
Let's do it.
We've got a wood elf ranger named Eldrin Nymeria
Okay.
and a Minotaur weather mage named Korth Thunderhoof.
Ooh. Okay. Two wildly different characters already. I'm kind of intrigued by the range.
That's what I'm saying, because if it's just like spitting out the same generic like
Yeah.
warrior with a tragic past,
Mhm.
it's not very helpful.
Yeah, we've got enough of those.
Yeah, exactly. And so what I'm really looking for here, and I think what our listeners are going to be interested in is
Yeah.
how customizable is this AI, right? Because we want something unique.
Exactly.
So how do we make it our own?
Right, because we're not just looking for a random backstory generator. We want something that feels fleshed out, but also like you, the listener, can really make your own.
Exactly. So let's start with Eldrin.
Okay.
She's described as a protector of the forest, which, okay,
Pretty standard wood elf ranger.
pretty standard, right?
Yeah.
But then you dig a little deeper and you see that her backstory actually goes into some pretty heartbreaking detail about how she grew up in this idyllic village,
Yeah.
learning the ways of the forest from her parents. And of course, classic D&D backstory alert, tragedy strikes, poachers attack. And, well, you can probably guess what happens to the parents.
Yeah, not great.
Yeah. So talk about emotive, right?
Right, there's some instant motivation built in there.
Exactly.
But that's what's interesting is it doesn't just slap a tragic backstory on her and call it a day.
Right.
It actually uses that event to shape her personality. So it says that she is passionate yet detached, slow to anger, but slow to trust.
Interesting.
So you're getting these like layers of complexity that you don't always see
Right.
in these like AI generated character bios.
It's like it understands that trauma can have like a real impact on someone's personality,
Yeah.
which is kind of amazing when you think about it, because it's like it's not just spitting out like
Yeah.
a random assortment of traits. It's actually like
It's trying to tell a story.
it's trying to build a character, and that gives you something more to work with as a player, right?
Right.
You're not just playing a stereotype.
Right.
You're playing someone with like some real depth.
Exactly. And speaking of depth, check out how it handles her physical description, because it doesn't just say like she has brown hair and wears leather armor.
Okay.
It says chestnut brown hair in intricate braids adorned with leaves and supple leather armor dyed in hues of moss and earth.
Wow. Okay.
You can practically visualize her, can't you?
Yeah, it's very evocative.
Yeah.
Like out of a fantasy novel or something.
Exactly.
And then check this out. It even provides a start of character section
Okay.
that directly ties into her backstory.
Interesting. So it's like giving you a jumping off point?
Yeah, like a narrative thread.
Okay.
To follow, so it says that there's this blight threatening her forest home. Talk about a ready-made adventure hook.
That's right there. And that is gold for a dungeon master who wants to create a campaign that is personally engaging for their players.
Oh, yeah?
You're not just dropping this character into a random world, you're weaving their personal history into the very fabric of the game.
I love that.
And that's a great segue into our other example.
Okay.
Because Korth's story is all about how his personal history intersects with the world around him.
Okay.
He's a Minotaur weather mage.
Okay, I was going to say brooding and Minotaur.
Right.
Not two words you usually hear.
Not usually what you think of.
In the same sentence.
But in this case, according to the backstory, he was always fascinated by storms, even as a young Minotaur.
Okay.
But this wasn't exactly seen as a, quote unquote, normal interest among his people.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Who were all about, strength and battle and all that jazz.
So he was kind of an outcast.
Yeah.
Like a Minotaur who would rather read weather patterns than charge into battle.
Exactly. And that isolation, that feeling of being different. It fueled his ambition, right?
Well, that's interesting.
He's not just trying to control the weather, he's trying to prove something to those who doubted him.
Okay, now that's a really fascinating character motivation.
Right.
And one that I bet a lot of players can relate to, even if they've never been a, Minotaur who can summon lightning.
Exactly. It taps into that universal desire for acceptance, for recognition, and it speaks to the AI's ability to go beyond just the surface level.
Right.
And create a character with some real emotional depth.
Okay, so Eldrin's backstory
Yeah.
is tied to a very specific physical place.
Right.
Right, her forest home. But Korth seems more thematic, right, tied to this idea of being an outsider.
Right.
Of seeking control over something as unpredictable as the weather.
Yeah.
So does the AI give us any clues about how those themes might play out in an actual campaign?
It does.
Okay.
Remember how we talked about Eldrin having that start of character section?
Yeah.
Korth's backstory includes something similar.
Okay.
And it suggests that he's searching for some ancient artifact or lost knowledge that will give him even greater mastery over storms.
Ooh, a magic artifact that can control the weather. Talk about a recipe for an epic campaign.
Right, and it doesn't even have to be about world domination. Maybe he's trying to prevent a catastrophic storm from destroying his former homeland, even though they cast him out.
Okay, now that's good storytelling.
Right.
You're using his backstory to explore themes of redemption, of confronting your past. It's like those classic myths about fallen heroes who have to earn their way back into the light.
And that's what is so exciting about this technology, right? It's not just about generating random backstories. It's about providing a framework for exploring these big universal themes that make fantasy so compelling.
Okay, but let's bring it back to our listener for a second.
Okay.
Let's say they're digging these backstories.
Yeah.
But they want to add their own personal touch. How customizable is this AI, really?
That's the million-dollar question. And from what I'm seeing, Lit RPG Adventures gives you a lot of control. You can tweak the basic parameters of the character.
Okay.
Their race, their class, their alignment, even their personality traits, and the AI will adjust the backstory accordingly.
So, for example, you could say, okay, I want Eldrin to be a rogue who's motivated by greed, instead of a ranger who's driven by a sense of duty.
Exactly.
And the AI would rework her whole backstory
Precisely.
to fit that new concept.
And you can get even more specific. Let's say you want Korth to have a particular rivalry with another weather mage.
Okay.
Maybe someone who represents everything he used to be.
Interesting.
You can feed that into the AI.
Wow.
And it will weave that conflict into his backstory.
So it's like having a personal dungeon master.
Right.
Who's constantly brainstorming with you.
Yes.
Helping you flesh out your character's past. But instead of pizza and soda, it runs on algorithms and data points.
Exactly. And don't forget, we've only scratched the surface here.
Okay.
Lit RPG Adventures isn't just about backstories. It also has features for generating worlds, quests, and even NPCs, all designed to integrate seamlessly with those backstories.
Okay, hold on. We need to unpack this because this is where I think things could get really, really interesting.
Yeah.
Especially for our listener who's looking for that next level of customization.
Okay.
So let's start with the world building aspect.
Okay.
We've got these two characters, each with their own unique history and motivations. How does Lit RPG Adventures take those individual stories and use them to create a world that feels tailor-made for them? So imagine this, right? You've got Eldrin, our wood elf rogue, but she's not just lurking in any old forest, right?
Right.
We're talking about a forest that's been shaped by her backstory. So maybe there's like a hidden grove where she learned to pickpocket from like mischievous sprites as a kid, or like a smuggler's route through the trees that she knows like the back of her hand because she used to run errands for her roguish family, you know?
Exactly. It's about taking those specific details from her past and weaving them into the environment so it creates a world that feels both familiar and surprising. And it's not just about aesthetics either, it's about gameplay too.
Okay, how so?
Well, that hidden grove might be a source of rare herbs that she can use to craft poisons, or that smuggler's route could lead to a secret meeting place where she can fence her ill-gotten gains.
So her backstory isn't just a paragraph on her character sheet. It's like infused into the very DNA of the world.
Exactly. And the same goes for Korth. Let's say instead of wanting world domination, he's trying to gather these ancient weather-controlling artifacts to save his homeland from a magical drought.
Okay.
The world-building feature could create this like parched wasteland, right?
Okay.
Dotted with remnants of his ancestors' attempts to control the weather, maybe crumbling observatories or dried up springs, said to hold a single drop of storm giant sweat, you know?
Okay, now I'm picturing Korath like battling a rival weather mage for control of a crumbling tower, using his knowledge of like ancient Minotaur weather rituals to like outmaneuver his opponent. We're talking like next level boss battles here.
Right, and who are those rivals, those allies, those quirky shopkeepers he meets along the way? That's where the NPC generator comes in.
Right.
And not just like random faces in the tavern. Imagine if some of those NPCs are connected to his past. Maybe a childhood friend who became this renowned engineer specializing in drought-resistant irrigation systems.
Or a bitter rival who blames Korath's fascination with storms for the drought in the first place.
Exactly. And suddenly your campaign is populated with characters who have history, who have motivations that go beyond just giving out quests or selling potions.
It's like that old saying, everyone has a story. Well, now your NPCs do too.
Right.
And those stories are intertwined with your character's story and with the world itself.
And let's not forget, lit RPG adventures can also generate quests, but these aren't your generic go kill 10 rats kind of quests.
Right.
These are quests that are specifically designed to challenge your character based on their backstory.
So for Eldrin, it might be like retrieving a stolen heirloom that belonged to her parents, or exposing a corrupt merchant who's been exploiting the forest for his own gain.
Exactly. And for Korth, it might be brokering a peace treaty between two warring factions who are fighting over a dwindling water supply, or maybe even journeying into the heart of a magical storm to appease an angry wind spirit.
It sounds like we've gone way beyond just backstories here.
Yeah.
We're talking about using AI to create a fully realized campaign world that's both deeply personal and epically challenging.
And that's the real takeaway here, isn't it? AI isn't about replacing human creativity. It's about giving us the tools to explore new possibilities, to break free from those tired tropes and create something truly unique.
It's like having this whole team of dungeon masters, like working behind the scenes, whispering ideas, suggesting plot twists, and helping you bring your D&D game to life.
And who knows, maybe in the process of using AI to craft these amazing adventures for our characters, we might even discover something new about ourselves, about our own creative potential.
Now, there's a thought to leave you with. Thanks for diving deep with us today. Until next time, may your dice rolls be lucky and your backstories legendary.